Welcome to the next installment in our lecture series for the Principles of Microeconomics here at Rutgers University Camden campus. And what I'm going to review today with this video is general equilibrium. Alright, so what I want to do is just give you a little brief overview of what I mean by general equilibrium, why it's important, and then I'll give you a specific example of how changes in one market can affect another market and how both of those markets adjust to equilibrium if we're talking about a perfectly competitive marketplace. So first, when I say general equilibrium, make sure you remember exactly what I have right here, when all markets in the economy are simultaneously in equilibrium. Remember, we talked previously before, we only looked at specific markets, and that's an example of partial equilibrium analysis, where we're only looking at one market in equilibrium and not looking at the impact of that change on multiple markets. So when I say general equilibrium, I mean that all markets simultaneously are in equilibrium. And the importance of this is that if an event happens that impacts market A, let's say, the market for corn, the example that was given in class and it was in your textbook, there was an increase in demand for corn, but that drives the price of corn up, which means some producers who are producing other farm products will switch away from producing the farm products that they were producing, moving over to producing corn. So, for example, some wheat farmers might switch over and stop producing wheat and start producing corn because of the fact that the price went up. For corn, to them, it's a more profitable notion to be producing corn relative to wheat because of the fact that the price of corn has gone up. Well, that shrinks the supply of wheat. Less land is being used to produce wheat, so therefore we're going to see a leftward shift of the supply curve, and the price of wheat goes up. So because the price of corn goes up, we see a substitution away from the production of wheat to the production of corn, which drives wheat prices up. So that's why this is important, that an impact, something that changes in the economy that impacts one sector of the economy might have spillover effects on other sectors of the economy. So that's why, even though partial equilibrium analysis is important, it's important to understand that market mechanism and the movement return to an equilibrium. Partial equilibrium analysis does not give a complete picture. So that's why all of this is important. So how are we going to address this? We're going to take a look at this by having a specific change. And the specific change that we're talking about is that people's tastes and preferences are going to change. People are going to shift away from good B, right here. So beforehand they were buying good B, and now they're shifting away, and now their preferences are going to good A. So their preferences are moving away from B, but moving over to good A. So therefore, if the tastes and preferences are shifting to the A, the demand for good A is going to increase. And since their preferences are shifting away from good B, we're going to see the demand for good B increase. So what we want to take a look at is what's going to be the impact on the short run. In the short run, what's going to happen to the profits of good A and the profits for companies producing good B. So we want to take a look at, because of this change in tastes and preferences, in the short run, what's going to happen to the profits for the companies that are producing good A and the profits of the companies that produce good B. And then because of those changes, what's going to be the long run adjustment in the marketplace. So be aware of that. So I'm going to switch over to OmniGraph Sketcher, and we're going to take a look at what we have here. I want you to realize that here at the top, this top portion represents good A. So what we have here is we have the market for good A on the left-hand side here on the top. So this top fourth, this top quadrant here, represents the supply and demand. It's the market for good A, and that's going to be where the quantities and the price of good A are determined. And then if we move over to the right, what we have is the individual firm. Here's the representative individual firm in this marketplace. So this is their average total cost curve, marginal cost, etc. So the top portion, I want you to realize, has to do with good A. The the upper left-hand part is the market for good A, and the upper right-hand part of this is the individual firm producing the product in this market. If we look down at the bottom, what we have in the bottom here is that we're representing good B. All right, this is good B and the market for good B. So I want you to realize that the top is good A, the bottom is good B. And again, what we see here in the bottom part of this graph is that on the left-hand side, we have the market for good B. We have the supply and demand curves for good B. All right, so this is where price and output is determined in the marketplace. And then on the right-hand side, what do we end up seeing? This is the firm, an individual firm in that particular marketplace. So here's the individual average total cost, marginal cost, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this. And let me ungroup these to make this a little bit easier. I think that helped to illustrate the point by having them grouped. So what did I tell you? I told you that people's preferences shifted away from good B over to good A. So what's going to happen is that the demand for good A is going to increase. So let me just cut and paste a new demand curve in here, and let me shift this. I'll shift it up to here, and let me actually do it this way. So here is the original demand before the changes in preference, and here is the new demand after preferences have changed. So our demand curve has shifted from this here to this here. So this has shifted outward because people's preferences have shifted over to A away from B. So there are more people buying A, so the demand curve shifts over to the right. Well, what does this do? We have a new equilibrium price in the marketplace. So what's the new equilibrium price? It's where the new demand curve intersects the original supply curve. So here is the new price in the market. So the increase in demand has shifted the price up. So here is the original price, here is the new price. So what occurs because of this? Well, if we have a new price, we have to take a look at what's going to be the profit maximizing output level for these firms. So if we take a look at where the new demand curve intersects the original marginal cost curve, we see that output increases. All right, so we see the price goes up. This is QA, QA1. We subscript that. And let me minimize that. I'll make that a little smaller, not as wide. So what do we see? That the increase in demand, so we see the demand curve shift, we see that this causes the price to increase from here to here. So let me draw those in. It would be easier for everybody to see. So we have a rightward shift of the demand curve. We have an increase in demand. This causes the price to increase for good A. And what happens to output? Individual firms produce more. And let me draw in the impact on the market quantity. So what do we have? We have a change in preferences that causes the demand curve to shift to the right. We see a new equilibrium price. So the equilibrium price increases. So this is PA1. Oh. So we have an increase in demand because taste and preferences changed. The demand curve shifts to the right. We end up with a new equilibrium price and a new equilibrium quantity in the marketplace. So with that shifting upward of the price, we see that what happens? Firms increase their output. What does that do to the profits of these firms? If their cost structure is remaining the same, and if they were in a long run equilibrium previously, they had a zero economic profit. So as the price goes up, we're going to see that they're going to get an above normal or above a zero economic profit. They're going to have positive economic profits. So let me highlight that area. So what do we do here? This is going to be the area of profits right here. So the firms that produce good A, because of this shift in demand, are going to see that they go from zero economic profits to a positive economic profit. That gray shaded area represents the economic profits that the firms that are making good A are now getting after the shift in demand because tastes and preferences changed. So these firms benefit from the fact that tastes and preferences have shifted to the product that they are producing. We see in total that output's going to increase for the entire market, price is going to go up, and then we take a look at individual firms, the price they receive goes up and their output is also going to increase. What's going to be the impact on good B? People are buying good A and they stop purchasing good B. So they're going to actually see their demand curve shift to the left. And let me shift it to there. All right. So that's the original demand for good B, and here's the new demand for good B. So what happens in that market? Well, what happens to the equilibrium price? The equilibrium price falls when the demand shifts inward. So that's the new price for good B. So that's the price of good B1. And let me adjust that. Let me adjust this one. Let me keep the notation here consistent. All right. What's going to happen to the quantity? The quantity is going to decrease when demand decreases. So what do we see happens to the equilibrium quantity in the market? We see the equilibrium quantity in the market falling to QB1. So to summarize this, what's occurred? As people's tastes and preferences shift away from good B, we see the demand curve shift to the left. What does this do to the price? The price falls in the marketplace. The equilibrium price falls. What happens to the equilibrium quantity? Equilibrium quantity falls. All right, so what's the spillover effect that's going to occur for the firms, the individual firms that are producing this product? What do we see? Well, we have to go from where marginal revenue intersects marginal cost. So if we go to that point and we go straight down, looks a little more consistent there. So this is the new quantity for the individual firm. So this is QB1 for the individual firm. So what we end up saying is that there's a decrease in production for these firms. Why? Because as the price falls, they're going to produce less and less. Remember, the short-run supply curve is going to be marginal cost above average variable cost. So as the price falls, and we show the price falling here, we are going to move along the supply curve until, my marginal cost curve, until we get to the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So the output level is going to shrink. Here's our original output level, and here's the new output level. So industry-wide, we see a decrease in quantity, but at the individual firm level, we see the same thing. Remember that this difference here is just going to be the summation of all the cutbacks in output that these firms all the cutbacks at the individual firm level. So what's going to happen to the profits of these firms? Well, these firms were making a normal profit prior to the change in the marketplace, and as the price falls, they are going to become less profitable, so they're going to have a negative rate of return. They're going to have a negative economic profit. So let me pick a color here. I didn't want to do that. I always forget to unhighlight the things I have here. So this is going to be the profit maximizing output level. We go up until we hit, let me redo that, until I hit average total cost. So that's where they intersect. Let me go up until I hit average total cost, and I go across, and I go straight down, and that gives me the losses. Let me change that color there. So that purplish color represents the economic losses of these firms. So what's going to be the adjustment to all of this? Let's review exactly what happened. For good A, the demand increased because tastes and preferences shift to that product. That shifted the demand curve to the right, which raised the price in that market. So let me show that. So we see an increase in price, we see an increase in quantity. Let me draw in that increase in the quantity. So that's the impact on the marketplace. We see an increase in the price and an increase in the quantity. So when the price shifts upward, marginal revenue shifts upward. So now we have to go to the new profit maximizing output level. It's where the marginal cost curve intersects the new marginal revenue curve. This point there. So if we go straight down, that gives us our profit maximizing output level. And if we want to determine what the profits are, it's the difference between average total cost and our price. So if we go up till we hit the average total cost curve, and then we go up till we hit marginal revenue, the rectangle that's created by that is going to be the level of profits, because price is greater than average total cost. So the impact of this is that it converts these firms from firms who are making a zero economic profit. This increase in demand has caused these firms to have a positive economic profit. On the opposite side, what happens for good B? Because people are shifting away from that, we see that the demand curve shifts from here to here. So we have an inward shift in demand. The new equilibrium price is going to be where the new demand curve intersects the original supply curve. So where these two intersect one another is going to be the new equilibrium. So here's the new equilibrium quantity, and here's the new equilibrium price. So price and quantity have fallen in the marketplace. How does that impact the individual firms? Well, this now becomes the new marginal revenue curve. This was the original marginal revenue curve here, and this is the new marginal revenue curve because the market has set the price at a lower amount. In order to maximize profits, we still go to where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So where this intersects marginal cost, that's the new profit maximizing output level. So at that profit maximizing output level, we go up until we hit price, and the difference between price and average total cost in that quantity, the rectangle that's created by that, is the losses. So what's going to be the long run implication of the profits for the firms making good A and the losses for the firms that are making good B? Remember that in perfect competition, the profits and losses act as incentives for entry or exit. When firms are making money or making a above normal rate of return on their investment, making a positive economic profit, firms want to enter into the marketplace. When firms are losing money or they're making a negative economic profit, what is going to occur is that the firms will exit. So these economic profits are an incentive for entry. These economic losses are an incentive for exit. So what happens is that the firms that are entrepreneurs who see that firms making good A are making a above normal rate of return, they're making an economic profit, they enter into the marketplace. So that causes the supply curve to shift outward. And I'll just copy and paste this. And this will shift outward until I'll leave that there. It'd be tough to see. Let me rotate this around. That's a little better. So this is SA0. This is supply of A original. And this is the new supply of A. So the supply curve shifts outward until what happens? The price goes back to that original price. It goes back to the price where there are zero economic profits. So we just move back from the price goes up and the quantity increases, and then when the supply curve goes outward, what happens is we stay at the same quantity, but we end up seeing that the price decreases. So what does that do to the economic profits? Well, the price goes back down to its original level, which means those economic profits disappear. So what happens in perfect competition is that those economic profits act as an incentive for entry. The firms, entrepreneurs enter into that marketplace, the supply curve shifts outward, and the price goes back down to the point where the firms in this market are making a zero economic profit again. Same thing happens over here for the firms at good that are producing good B. They were losing money, so what's going to happen? We're going to see exit in the marketplace. So the supply curve is going to shift to the left. And it's going to keep shifting to the left until we get to that original equilibrium price and quantity. So here is the original supply curve, and then here's the new supply after exit occurs. So the price moves back up to the original price, and that eliminates the economic losses. So we end up with the same quantity, but the price ends up increasing to the point where we have zero economic profits again. I hope that was of some help to you. I just wanted you to realize, number one, that if there's a change in market, for example, market A, it can impact market B. But I want you to realize that what occurs in the long run, that those economic profits act as an incentive for entry. So for good A, that change in people's preferences and an increased demand and increase the price, all right, what we end up seeing is that the supply will increase. All right, so when those profits occur, we end up seeing the supply curve shifting outward because of those profits. And what happens, that decreases price until we get back to that equilibrium position where there's zero economic profits. The same thing for the good B, for companies that are producing good B. That decrease in demand decreased the price and caused the firms to have negative economic profits. Some of those firms will get out of that market. because they realize that there's better opportunities for profits in other industries. So the supply curve shifts to the left, which drives the price back up, which brings us back to a situation with the firms that are producing good B are back to the situation where they have normal economic profits.